5, 4, 3, 2.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Community Preservation Committee meeting, Wednesday, May 9th, 6:30. Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived, by those present and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. We have 2 members absent, Chuck Monis and Victor Farris. We have a quorum. First item on the agenda is acceptance of the prior meeting minutes dated May 3rd. Have a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the meeting minutes from May 3rd, 2018.
Do I have a second? A motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next item on the agenda is citizen input. Does anyone want to address the board? Move on to deliberations. Picking up where we were last meeting, we have one withdrawal from the list that we had, and that is the Stanley Street Fire Station. I received an email from the chief today that they are not interested in receiving the grant. They thank us for getting them this far, and they appreciate the way that we handled the emergency for them. However, they're going to patch that roof and do something else with the issue that was happening. Okay, so everyone has a new score sheet.
Yes.
First project up is Lafayette Turkey House. 186,000.
I like this project. I like what they've done. They've followed what we've asked them to do. I've recently been inside to see what was done for the last project with the fireplaces, and I think it's a fantastic project for many reasons. One, of its historical nature. 2, what that organization is going to bring to the table for our city tourism. I mean, they're going to have collaborations with BCC. So to me, all around, it's a great project, and I am glad to see it move forward. Hopefully, and I would make a recommendation to award them the $186,000.
In the form of a motion?
I'll make a motion to, yes.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on Lafayette Turkey House?
Other than everyone gave it a 1, so it's unanimous. The only one that was you.
It's a great project. Did a nice job.
The fireplaces look spectacular.
Anything else? Hearing nothing else, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Second project, Anawan number 6. The request is for $172,930.
Obviously, big support of this project. They've done a lot of good work with the renovations, the repointing looks really good. So this is going to help move them a long way to get open. So obviously full support of this, and they received 6 out of 7 first-place votes.
Yeah, another thing about the project too, I mean, I look at it, I mean, obviously we're saving an historical property. I mean, that's part of the master plan. Having it as a museum, again, to me, is another great addition to the city, tourism-wise, economical-wise. So I'm in favor of this project too, and I'm looking forward to it opening.
And I think also with them, they have so much community support, and even with their application, they've shown how many letters of support, how much support in the community is.
Yeah, they also
And
have,
their fundraisers.
they have
and all.
affiliations with the schools. I mean, they're educational in that regard too. So I mean, I think they're gonna have good collaborative efforts in what they do. So I think it's a great project.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the doors open.
Yeah, it's gonna be nice.
So I'd like to make a motion to fund them fully for $172,930.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I do have a comment. I gave this project a number 3 for one reason and one reason only. The non-responsiveness of the architect. I will reserve that comment for another day, further explanation, but I am not at all pleased with the actions of the architect on this project and others. So, as we've done with other projects, when we are not pleased with either a contractor or the architect, I am going to have a difficult time trusting the architect again. So,
Can we make a further motion that this funding should be overviewed by maybe a different architect? Would that-
no, I mean, I will vote affirmative for the project.
Okay.
I don't have a problem with that. It will not be a negative vote. I just have a problem with the architect and his lack of response when asked by this board for a letter or anything. No response means that he doesn't care, and as soon as a project goes a little south, he wants to walk away and leave the project hanging. He's caused other projects not to get funded due to his action, and I will not vote for any project. I'm voting for this project because I believe in the project. And we're at a stage now where I believe they've earned their funding from us. However, in the future, I will not be with this project.
I would attend that.
Any further comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next project is Central Fire for $200,000. I did receive, as I stated, a letter from the chief asking for our support in this project. He would like that station to be renovated, restored, and is looking for our help on this project.
So on this project, I mean, we originally asked for a study for the whole building, and that was done. And so they came up with a list of recommendations on what needs to be worked on, which we received. And they first, obviously, roofs are very important for the stabilization of buildings. So they came up with that first, which I agree with. One thing about the bid, they had requested $200,000, and in looking at the cost estimates in the structural study, the roof replacement that they came up with, the price was approximately $187,000, and then below that was a cost estimate for the skylight repairs of $49,000. And obviously, it's part of the roof. So to me, I would like to add that part in, and I would make a recommendation in the form of making a motion to award them $238,000 for the roof and the skylight repair.
What I would prefer is that we fund the rest right now, and then after we go to projects, depending on how much money we have, maybe we can revisit that and add the additional.
But like, is it like, do you think like just doing the roof without the skylights is like it just seems like they're connected?
Right, but I think like a lot of other projects where they've asked for a certain amount of money, and then there's been overages. It's been on the applicant to make up that difference. So if we fund them based on what they asked for, which is a roof repair. And then they realized that they need to fix the parapets or the skylights, and that's on them to come up with that money to fix that. So,
Okay, so I'll withdraw my motion. I see what you're saying, it makes sense to me. So I'll withdraw that motion and then make a motion to fund them $200,000.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The next project is Bill here. Request for $95,937.
no, go ahead, I'm missing my mouse, so things will
Again, this organization has been in this community for a number of years, and they do great work. The building itself is spectacular. They've put a lot of their own money into fixing up much of this building to keep it stabilized. But obviously, they need help at this point, and I think they're a very worthy organization that deserves to have this building upgraded and fixed. So I would make a recommendation a motion to fund them for the amount they asked, $95,936.50.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next item on the agenda is the Joseph Francis Green for $13,000.
I'd make a motion to pass this because it'll give a flat out area for the money we're putting in. We'll dress up the area.
Motion, Joe?
Fun, yes.
Okay, have a motion?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Elks, or Elks Lodge. There's number 6, there's 3 number 6.
Oh, okay. Number 6 is the Elks Lodge for $150,000.
So I voted against this project for the sole reason that the funds that we approved last year, the $50,000 was for 10 windows on the 3rd story of the building. And the work that was actually done was 3 windows and 1 window, smaller window by the stair, there was a parapet, some flashing work. So as far as I'm concerned, last year's funding, which has been requested to be paid in full, that work has now been. So I'll just leave it at that.
Actually, Tony, all the work has been done, but Ventura hasn't been calling them back and hasn't sent them the final bill.
Right.
Even though all the bills are paid, he's still waiting for Ventura, which is an ongoing problem with Ventura.
Right.
He doesn't communicate back once he gets a chunk of the change.
The only thing that I was looking at was the application for payment, and then on the application for payment, it references the 3 large arched windows.
Yeah.
Absolutely qualifies, but then they added all of the other things that we didn't approve for last year, that's all.
Well, he did all the windows.
No, it's supposed to be 10 of the large arched windows at the top, so when you're out in the street, I see the trim work around those windows. It's still the original trim work with the paint peeling. So,
I thought we just funded 10 windows to be repaired.
10 arch windows. This is the preservation of water agreement to them, and the project description is funds for replacement of 10 windows.
10 windows.
Right, but 10 windows weren't finished.
Well, he did the other windows.
But this is the receipt from
he hasn't got the final bill back.
But and on the receipt here, it talks about repair of aluminum cap flashing on parapet walls, repair of copper cladding on east elevation. So those two things right there aren't 10 windows. Like, there's money spent on things that weren't.
But he also paid additional money for that too.
But that's not what this receipt says.
Yeah, but he hasn't got the final bill back from him yet, so I don't know how we can, you know,
But this receipt from Hanover Property says window restoration.
yeah.
But that doesn't match this. And we also received a letter from the contractor that did the work saying they still owe them approximately $4,700.
Because the windows are not.
He never brought that up in front of us though when he was here. Like that happened before he came in front of us 2 months ago, but he never brought that up to us. Why was that? But shouldn't he have, saying that the work wasn't finished and that he's holding out on the payment because it's not done? He never brought that in front of us. So to me, I don't feel that the work is done properly, and that just doesn't seem like it's tidied up, I'll say. So I don't see the funds from last year allocated in the right spot yet. Maybe they will be, maybe he can come back in front of us again, but right now I don't see the connection as that project's being completed myself.
Well, I looked at both his funding application, which says 10 third floor windows at $50,053. I looked at our agreement that we signed that says 10 windows, no location. And there are more than 10 windows on the building that have been completed. And the other work is insignificant anyway. As I said, we have a problem with an architect who has decided to run roughshod over everyone he works for. And there's another project that...
At the same time, too, when it's your property, you're responsible.
I agree.
I mean, I own a building, I'm responsible for the contractors I hire, I'm not gonna give my architect the responsibility of these funds. The funds were not awarded to the architect, they were awarded to Hanover Properties, so he's the custodian of the funds. So he is the one in charge. That's all I'll say about it. I mean, it's a great building, it's a nice project, but I think the funds need to go to where they're allocated to, and I think the responsibility needs to be the owner. I don't think that the ownership of the mismanagement should be left to the architect.
No, I agree with you 100%. But we are being held hostage right now without a letter or anything from the architect stating whether or not all the work is finished. We've got nothing. He's chosen to give us nothing, even though we've asked for it numerous times. The latest, a couple of days ago, we made the contact with him and he's not responding.
Yeah.
But I'm sure he'll respond on the projects that we funded this year, but he can't refund, the architect can't respond to the project.
What about the response from a contractor who's saying they didn't get paid?
Look, the nature of this business has been and always will. People who work for people take their money at risk, and that's the contracting business. I was in it for many years, and I understand that business. And you win some and you lose some. Is it wrong? It absolutely irks me when people don't pay their bills. If the work is done, then the bills should be paid.
Right.
The problem is that this board has put architects on a pedestal to oversee projects and to be our eyes. And obviously, they're only our eyes when there's a dollar to be made. And that's very unfortunate that they've basically looked at us and said, we're not giving you the answer you want. Any answer would have been better than what they've given us. They could have given us a letter saying, I'm not getting paid. This is why I'm not responding to you. This board deserves better than that.
But I also think we deserve the information that the project wasn't completed correctly. Like, we got all of this informational stuff email-wise, where we had the owner here who brought none of that up. All we just kept getting was emails like, I don't like the paper trail thing. You're here in front of us, tell me the story. So like, the email thing, back and forth, receipts and everything, that's fine, but they were here to speak to us, and it was never brought up by the person.
But also, how is it the architect's fault that the other contractor didn't get paid?
No, I'm not saying this. That's a totally separate issue. Totally separate issue.
I agree with you with the fact that this architect has seemed to like mismanage many projects already, and moving forward, I agree with you saying, if I see a project with that architect, I'm not gonna vote for it, because there's been so much misinformation and seemed like bad handling by that architect. So to me, I agree with Ken. If the project comes along with him, I'm not even gonna support it. But as a business owner, as a property owner, I'm responsible for my property and what happens with it.
You wouldn't pay somebody for doing shoddy work.
It was never brought up though. It should be.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have to ask him anything. He should be telling me this information. Why is all this information coming through me through emails electronically later on by the same person that could have said it to us? I mean, we shouldn't have all this questioned. All that in the 11th hour. Nothing's coming in on time. I mean, do we keep like just taking all kind of information right to the day of deliberation? Like, do we have like, is there any like rule? I mean, eligibility comes in September 2nd, funding, February, whatever. But everything after that just can keep coming in till the minute we sit down and deliberate.
Well, I think that's because we asked for it.
But we shouldn't have had to ask for these things.
It was all supposed to be in February 1st. When the deadline was in, all of the financial paperwork was supposed to be in. The packets were supposed to be complete. We really shouldn't have had to be asking for stuff, and when they come before us, all of this stuff is supposed to be known. It's not supposed to be, I'm not supposed to be getting emails the day that I'm gonna vote on something to find out more information.
Like, is that how we should move forward?
Well, no, you're talking about
But it's
last
two
year.
different, right, but it's two, this is apples
He
and
has
oranges.
this year's
So
package, everything's
this year's
in.
package, everything is in. We're talking about last year's project already finished and information coming in. It is apples and
But
oranges.
it also determines how some of us will vote.
Oh, absolutely. And maybe we need to be very clear that we're not going to accept another document, because probably of the 17 projects, we've received 5 or 6 supplementals since February from other projects that we've already approved for a few of them. You said at last meeting that we need clear direction, and it was in the architect, whether or not we were two architects, whether we're all clear on the corner. And we do have a lot of those issues where we are maybe not as clear as we should be as to what we're going to accept and what we're not going to accept. We're not denying people because of it, but we are saying what we're going to accept and what we're not going to accept.
The other thing too, a resident came before us at our last meeting, speaking of the 2 contractors that, and I actually went online, I could not find these 2 contractors. They did not come up. A&W contractors.
They're not an LLC, they're a partnership. We don't have to. They've done work in Newport. No.
But I'm just saying, I just didn't see where I didn't see their information brought up anywhere. Like, I Googled it, I didn't see their name. I mean, I can Google my contract that I always use and it comes right up. Like, so I'm not sure. I'm not saying that that's not right, but I mean, I just kind of find it odd that I don't.
He was recommended by a guy that does national tax credits. That's how we got him.
Okay.
So where are their offices though?
I'm not sure of that, I don't.
Because
I know he was
the
recommended
addresses
by a
of
guy that does
everything,
national tax credits.
the addresses that they had are just houses. They're not, there's no office, there's no.
I mean, did this board recommend the architect to him?
Yes,
We recommended.
absolutely.
Probably.
Yes, we did.
We voted on that as a board?
No,
No, somebody
it
recommended.
was a recommendation.
So
Because at one point, he was doing the right kind of work, and for whatever reason, now everything's like upside down.
But
again.
could the owner have gone to somebody else?
He could have, but he took the recommendation.
Yeah.
The recommendation of the board, not the
And
vote,
he
but
followed
he did take the
recommendations
recommendation of the
of
board.
would hire for a window from this architect. So that's why he's in the spot he is in.
But
Because he followed the recommendation, the architect, the guy who did the windows for the architect. And
to me, the receipts don't add up to what we said still. Like, I just don't think the connection is clean to me. He can come back before us next year, maybe with a new architect, everything would be a little bit clearer. Maybe this whole problem with the past year of the restoration and the renovation will be cleared up by then, and like he can come back. It's not like an emergency building funding. I mean,
No, but there is another architect on this project. If I'm not mistaken, we received all that information.
Yeah, there is now.
There is a different architect and designer that is on this project. On the current project that's being asked, it's not.
But I understand what Jim is saying, how
You're
everything
allowed
is
to
just,
say it.
it's a big mess.
I mean,
And it's hard
this-
to support something when there's such a mess behind it. That, for
And
me, I don't feel comfortable.
Today we get 5
with thinking
emails on
going
this
forward,
project.
everything is gonna be
Like,
okay.
why so much
because-
misinformation to the last hour? I don't know. I don't feel that. I think come back next year, look for funds again, but I mean, I don't think the clarity of the past project is cleared up enough. That's my opinion.
Is there a motion on anything?
I make a motion to fund it.
I have a motion to move the project funding forward at $150,000. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We have a tie. The project will sit, we're gonna have a tie. We will have to, we'll have to get a ruling on it. Move on. Next project,
So what happens to the one?
just leave it up. I need no ruling on it. I'm not about to make a decision on a tie that I don't have the knowledge of. The next one is,
Because we're missing the 2 people that voted in number 1 on it, so.
which one?
The Lower Kennedy Park Granite Wall. Number 60.
Yes. Which is for 30,000? Yes, 30,000.
After going by there and looking at it, and it's definitely a major collapse, I would say, on the park ground and the wall, obviously. I mean, it looks very unsafe, I'll say. So I would make a motion to fund this project for $30,000.
I'll second that. I've gone by, I've taken pictures, it does look, it looks like a safety issue, it looks terrible. And it's hard to imagine that some heavy rains over the summer are not gonna just start washing all the ground over there down the hill.
I think it's a safety issue.
We have a motion and a second. Anyone else? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Next project is Bioreserve. All right. So this would be Bioreserve 1. $750,000. This project will be recommended for bonding. The number we put in was 78,000, was it? 10 million.
So the one at the
went on the big walk with Mike on Saturday, and it was really awesome. Good job, Mike. It was really, really good. It's amazing. It's actually gorgeous. I mean, there's so much in there, you have no idea what's there until you're there. So it was great to go through that. It's nice that you do this. These kind of walks happen very frequently. Maybe the word could get out there more about them. But it was a 12, 13. I was tired at the end. It was really, really nice. But so I would like to make a motion to bond this for 10 years at $75,000 a year.
I'll second.
Is it 75? 78,000.
78, yeah.
Okay, so I'd make a motion to bond it for 10 years at $78,000 a year, because I'm glad to see that more land will be preserved for forever.
And I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Just what I had said last time, that I don't think that the city has put enough resources into making these spaces more available to the public, or provided any brochures to let the public know that these spaces are available. And I'm not completely opposed to it. I like the fact that it's a bond. So
maybe we could ask them to maybe get more information out for the public, possibly through some form, and have it at City Hall or wherever else that people can know more about it.
Yeah. And part of it was the road works, that you really have to go into Dartmouth to get back into Falmouth for a lot of these spaces, and that's just unfortunate. So, you haven't seen the SUV that was stuck in the hole?
Yeah, that's okay.
Yep.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Next item is academic.
So we go to academic, yes.
Okay, we have a request, an amended request.
It was 250,000, and from the original 361, so we basically took 104,000 off from the original request. And what we had stated at our last meeting is that they are not able to come back and request any more money for the elevator. So it's 250 for the elevator, and if they have to go over, they have to fund it themselves.
Do you have a motion on this project?
I'd like to make a motion to fund them for the 250.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
What was that?
Next one is Eagle.
So we received a letter today. I am not accepting this letter. The letter came from the applicant, basically requesting that the previous change to have just the architect do an existing conditions project to basically cut that fee in half and put 30,000 to the roof. The reason I'm not in support of that is because this report by the architect will basically indicate really how much work is needed in that roof. So I'm in favor of the original amended application, minus, John, you had a concern with the kitchen consultant. So that initial request was 98,000. So I'd like to eliminate the 10,000 for that kitchen consultant and funding the 88,000 of that Mike King's farm to do an existing conditions study of the Eagle.
Well, I can tell you that I'm not in favor of that. I would rather us see the roof not leaking, and then go ahead with the study and leaving the roof leak. And I think that the roofing contractor could replace, repair that roof without having the architect involved.
So you're proposing the 80,000 per this amendment contract, which is 50,000 for architectural services minus the engineers,
Right.
and then 30,000 for the roof.
Yes. That would, I will make that motion. I'm sure there's someone else here if they want to, and if not, then I won't make it.
I'll second that.
Mr. Chairman, can the motion be repeated? I couldn't hear now.
Sure, so the motion would be to allow the $50,000 for the study and $30,000 for the roof repair or replace of fiber board and the rubber roofing.
Thank you. Mr. Branson.
Is that a motion?
I just have to make a comment that I'm not going to be voting in favor of this project or any of the ones that are like privately owned, just for the fact, for myself, that I've had many residents come through and speak to me about not like we can't do it, but just personally for myself, I don't feel at this time I want to vote for projects that are like privately owned. And that's all I'll say about it.
I think my hesitation is, like I had said the last time, we've had 3 different sort of morphing of this application from what it started out to what it is now, and I don't feel it's the same application. And to me, if you're coming in and you're doing something completely different, then you need to come back with a new application in the next round of funding.
Anyone else? We have a motion and a second.
Which of the motions do you have?
I think only one got seconded,
Which one was that?
which is the 80,000, 50, and 30.
Okay.
Anything else on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
What is it?
I only saw 2. Is it 4-2?
Motion carries for 80,000. Cultural Center?
Cultural Center, yes. There was 2 number 9s. The Cultural Center followed by Niagara Neighborhood, and currently, money-wise, we are at $1.1 million. 200,000. So maybe we can jump to the second number 9, it's a smaller number, and then go back to the cultural center because they're at 4, and we talked about doing 1 or 2 the rooms. The 461.
Is everyone okay with that? Taking Niagara first? Okay.
Yep.
So next project is Niagara Neighborhood Bike Path Study for 90,000.
So my comments from the last meeting, which I will repeat, was that I saw that this project had 2 basic components to it. One of them was to obviously bring a new bike path to the neighborhood, which was just on the other side of 185, and I measured it being 250 feet away and having 6 intersections. That part of this application, I'm personally not in favor. The other part of the application was to bring a bike path along south of Lowell and eventually get it to Maplewood Park. That part of the application I liked very much. So the initial discuss was for 90,000, And I felt that if we split this and we paid for the South Pawtucket bond for $45,000, it's my opinion that the city planner, city engineer, I'm more than happy to offer my services for free. We can look to see how we can make the other part of it work without costing and paying for an outside
So
consultant.
I think what you're saying makes a lot of sense. After looking at it and you pointing out all of the intersections and things like that, it's on city streets. I mean, granted, we have bike paths. I bike a lot, and it's tough to bike on a road when you just have the little bike print, when there's cars parked near you and stuff like that. So I think you're right. I agree with the fact that the South Pawtucket connection would pretty much do the job for that. So the 90,000 makes more sense to me.
So my motion is to fund this project, $45,000 for the South Pawtucket link to Maple.
We have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
One last question. Because we're going with that route, will this application have a conservation restriction? Because I think at one time with this application there were too many intersections and too many properties for us to put any type of restriction. But now that we've split it, it's basically going to be more in the city of Fall River. But I'm okay with it either way, but I just wanted to make clear that this application is the one that we talked about potentially not having a restriction.
All right.
So I just wanted that to be clear and also part of the vote.
My comment to that, Tony, is that if the project comes to fruition, then I would think that we would possibly do that funding round. I'm not a big fan of covering putting studies into anything. That's only my opinion. But I would think that if this project does happen, then it would be a perfect opportunity, even though we're going to have a very difficult time putting a conservation restriction on state land.
I would like to amend my motion to make it so that we fund the $45,000 and that we do not require a restriction on this one application.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
One.
One opposition?
Yeah.
Okay. 5-1.
We have 1.15 million. And we have,
That's what the bond?
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
So I can do a little quick math while we look at the cultural center and we look at the cost for the different roofs.
Sure. I think at the last, we had 2 roofs for 177 and 1 roof for 177, if I'm not mistaken, or something close to that. Am I wrong, Ken? I may
think
be
you are
wrong
correct.
because there's more work than that. We got a slip for 481,000 here, so. Yeah, that's 177 here plus the wood decking, so. Tony, when you looked at this last time, you removed the wood decking, am I right? On each of them, in order to make that number work?
Right, the wood decking, I didn't see that it was required, that all we needed was a 1/2-inch protection board under it. So they were basically removing the entire wood decking and putting it back in, and that didn't make any sense to me.
Okay. So the 2 splits would be the ballroom at 95.8 plus the kitchen at 72.9.
We have 159,340 available.
Well, that one is a little bit over. Both of them would be a little bit over that.
You can write on it. You can.
Yeah. So,
I mean, we could offer less, like we've done to other applicants in the past, and see if they accept that and make up the difference.
what is our number, Tony? 1310 207?
1310-207.
And that's after taking the $60,000 out, right?
The 60,000?
This is the 60 here.
Correct. That's
Okay.
that's already out.
Okay.
Yep.
So we
So
got
we're left with
95.8 and 72. It's 168. You said we have what?
159,340.
Could we just do the
59,
kitchen roof
340.
this time around?
I didn't hear, I'm sorry.
Could we
you
just do
just-
the kitchen roof this time around?
You could.
Like,
I mean, that's 72, I mean,
is just doing that gonna like subside, like the
that's
Like,
the major leak problem
It's,
right there.
yeah, I mean, the ballroom, the damage, the room that they use, you know, for functions would still be leaking. So, the kitchen was leaking the worst. The kitchen roof was in the worst shape because it had so much equipment on it. I would rather us
72.
fund the 159,340, which is the balance of what we have left. Get him close, and they would have to kick in the remainder to get to 168. If someone's willing to go that way, if that's an option. So if we would, the balance of funds remaining is 159,340. So if we want to fund this project at 159 even,
That would leave it with how much?
that'll leave us with nothing.
No, his amount.
He'll about 10,000 short of doing that at one
That's
section.
fair.
And what's it gonna cover? Which roof?
This would cover the roof, this would cover the ballroom and the kitchen. I think the two worst areas, so. Thank you.
So Kenny, are you making a motion to fund this 150,000?
159,000.
159,340 or?
No,
just
159.
159?
Yes.
Okay. I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second to fund the project 159 even. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 5-1. I don't think we need to go any further. That gets us to
Correct.
our funding total.
Yes, that just leaves us like 9,000 left.
Right. Okay. We have,
what about revisiting the Elks?
well, so we're going to need to, at our next meeting, revisit the Elks project.
Chuck is here now.
Chuck showed up, that's why.
Oh, I didn't know he had showed up. Okay. Do we want to look at that now? Are we comfortable looking at it now?
How
Okay.
do we revisit it if we have no more money?
It's, Tony kept it in.
Oh, I did not.
You
hold
didn't?
on. You said to leave it as 0 until
Oh,
we
okay.
revisit it. Sorry.
So, all right, so that changes things. The project is still in the number 9 spot, and we approved projects that were scored lower than that, so. Do we want to revisit that project now?
Yeah.
Okay. The project.
I'll make a motion to revisit the project number 11, the former Elks Lodge.
Okay, the project is for $150,000.
Second on the motion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Second.
We need a second on the
Second.
motion to
Second.
revisit. Any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now, Project's $150,000. And its slot is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up, am I right?
Yeah, they were tied for 6th place.
Okay. Do we have a motion to fund the project at the former Elks Lodge, 200 Bank Street, for $150,000?
I make a motion to fund.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's
What was the count?
6-3. I'm sorry,
4.
4-3.
4, 3, 4, or?
4. So starting from that point,
So would it make sense to take the central fire station and bond that instead? Since it's a city project?
I'm not in favor of bonding.
No.
yeah,
It's-
my personal opinion with the bonding is on a project that's large enough to support bonding, we bond.
Yeah,
On projects that are not, then
I mean,
we shy away.
200,000
That's
is a
my
lot.
opinion, though.
200,000 is a lot of money, but I don't think we should be bonding 200,000.
Now, what about the park wires? If we don't fund that, are we gonna lose grant money?
So, yeah, so the discussion on the park wires is that any grant that the city applies for from the Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs, you can apply for the grant, but before you get your final payment, the wires in that particular area would have to be. So if you applied for a project in Ruggles and you were approved, you could go ahead with the project with the wires above ground. However, before you get your final payment, you wouldn't get that final payment if the wires weren't put underground. It can't be part of the project unless you're making it a part of the project, but that's something that usually they don't pay for. So that's the ruling that we received from Melissa Cryan, who is the person who administers that grant for.
So if something like that came up, what would we do? Emergency?
The city would have to decide whether or not they apply. As far as I know, there are no grants, no park grants currently being applied for. So it has no immediate effect.
All right.
However, if the city decided to apply for those grants, then they would have to be sure that by the time the project was finished, that the wires in that particular park would be taken care of.
so Kenny, how I interpreted, so I saw the email, so I went in and downloaded the application and went through the application. So I interpreted it like the other codes that I work with, which is that the money that you apply for, if you're touching electrical in that part of that grant, then that new work would have to be underground. That it wouldn't necessarily be the entire park. So for example, if I'm doing a renovation of a building and I don't touch the exterior door, I don't have to bring that door up to code. But the second I touch that door, now that door has to be up to code. So my interpretation of the application is that whatever it is that we're looking to fund the park, if there's any electrical components as part of that, then that work would have to be underground. What this application is asking for $250,000 to take all existing wires and put them underground first, and then go and get the grants. So I'm of the opinion that once we do get those grants, come back here, and if you need money at that point
It would make sense why.
to have the wires go down, yeah, I'm all for that. Open space, I mean, hopefully it's a historical preservation. We can put some of these parks on the Fall River Register to qualify for the historical category. But to pay $250 to just go through all of the parks, to put the electrical on the ground and not have those grants yet in our hands, I just see that we could use that money wisely later. That's
Yep.
just my opinion.
That makes
I agree.
sense.
Okay.
I
That
agree.
was a little bit further down on the charts anyway. Number 14, if I'm not mistaken, or 13.
They were number 14.
Okay,
They were tied with one other,
right.
which was a children's porch.
Okay, so moving backwards, it looks like the last one that we talked about would be removed,
The cultural center.
yes. Which would leave us with roughly 9,300 and change left
So
in that.
let me put that as 0 for now. See where that number comes in. So we've approved 1,300,867, and available was 1,310,207. So basically $10,650 is remaining.
Okay. I don't think we need to take another vote on the total package. We voted on the individual projects that we listed as projects that the board approved when we send down the request to the city council.
Do we need to make a motion to
approval on the-
remove cultural?
We do. We do. Yes.
So do we have to make a motion to defund?
Yes, that's what Jim just said.
Oh, I'm
So
sorry.
we need a motion on that. To remove the funding from the cultural center.
So I make a motion to remove the funding from the cultural center.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to remove the funding from the cultural center for $159,000. Any further discussion? Hearing none? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. I do have some items on the agenda that I'd like to put on the agenda for the June meeting. They are as follows: conversation on the working group for oversight, citizens' input, come up with the language
Yep.
for citizens' input. We need to update our CPC plan to submit to the state. Conversation on the intern. Deed restrictions. Applications, so we need to, let's take another look at the eligibility and funding, if we need to add language in there regarding whether it be the architect as to
Yep.
how many are required during the
even-
process
yep.
or are required at all. And then we need to review and update our agreements to be sure the agreements that we are going to send to Corporation Council to accompany these projects is up to date, and also project updates from Sandy on what we currently have out there.
Sounds good.
Does anybody have anything else?
The only thing I'd like to add is we were able to fund 11 projects this year,
It's good.
Very good.
1.3 million. So I think that's some pretty good economic development on our part. And technically, we have been providing the city between $1 and $2 million every single year,
Yeah.
of which no one ever sees that as economic
Right.
development, but we are stimulating a lot of projects in the city.
Yep.
I'd like for a lot of those projects to be completed so that we can showcase them in the
Yeah.
future.
Absolutely. Meeting date in June. The earlier in June, the better, and the only reason I say that is I'm not sure when the council is going to take this up, and it would be nice if we had a meeting before the council meeting so that we can look at the document that we're going to present to the city council.
Are they meeting on May 22nd?
I think they are.
would we want to try to get that in there before the June 1st?
That would be fantastic. I'm not sure, Sandy, is that doable?
I've already started on the report, so I just got to fill in the points. So,
The one for them,
full report, yes.
for the city council?
So I can try to make sure that it's ready.
I can, 22nd works, well, we need to do it before the 22nd, so we would need to either do it on the 21st, the Monday, or how does this, '16th, '17th? Does that work for anybody? Either one of those? May.
Oh, I was going to say, like,
Sorry.
May 17, I got a haircut, of course.
Kenny,
Yeah, as long as
Kenny,
it's
do
like,
you want me to find out when the next council meeting is?
If you could,
It's supposed to be tonight, but it's not. So I don't know if they're going to change the schedule or not. So
Okay.
tomorrow I'll ask Allison what their schedule is. I'll email you all.
Sure, and then just give us some dates. I know that I'm available on the 16th, 17th
May.
of May.
maybe 6:30 is a good time too, like,
Right, it may be easier.
6:30 might be a better time, yeah, to kind of,
Yeah, 16, 17, and a backup day of 21, if the council meeting.
I'll find out.
Okay. The problem is, well, this may not,
21's a Sunday.
yeah, no, we're in May.
May?
May.
Oh, just that.
The only other problem too is the filing deadline for the city council would be
Thursday.
the Thursday, the 17th, so the 17th would be out. So if the 16th works for everyone, then we should lock that one in. And then if the meeting is not on the 22nd, then,
It's the 29th.
yeah, we'd still have a little bit more time if that doesn't work. The 16th works?
16 works, yes. We have historical commission meeting on the 15th.
Okay.
Yep.
So if the 16th works for everyone, that's the date we'll shoot for.
6:30?
Yes,
6:30?
6:30.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, everyone.